The first 3 train has been bought or exported. It's now time to go into the green phase. This is part 2 of the video series Laying Track. So let's take a look at the track in 18 Chesapeake and see if we can figure out the best routes to lay, or how to lay tragic track for our friends. I'm Joe Leone, and this is 18XX Training. Let's play with some trains. For this video, I'm going to assume you know how to play 18 Chesapeake. If you do not know how to play 18 Chesapeake, I would strongly recommend Will Tappan's video on how to play. I will put a link to it in the description. A special thank you to Eric and Johnny at the Train Shuffling Podcast. Episode number 15 showed me that good tracks and good routes do not just happen. An additional thank you for everyone on BoardGameGeek that responded to my forum post, and to JC Lawrence for his wonderful papers on track building. This has made this video possible. I have put links to all of this in the description of the video. The green phase consists of phase 3 and 4. Phase 3 starts on the purchase of the first 3 train. During phase 3, yellow and green track are available. There are now 2 operating rounds between stock rounds. Companies may buy private companies from players. Track may be built on private company hexes if the associated private company has been purchased by a company. Red off-boards now count for their second value, and companies may own no more than 4 trains. Phase 4 is also part of the green phase. There are only 2 real differences between phase 3 and 4. First, during phase 4, after the purchase of the first 4 train, all 2 trains leave the game immediately. The train limit is now 3 trains. In the beginning of the game, the private companies have very little impact. They provide the players with a little bit of income and block some hexes for track builds. During the green phase, you reap the rewards or pay the price for the decisions you made during the initial auction. We will discuss 2 of the private companies now, and the other 4 during track building segment. The first one to talk about is Cornelius Vanderbilt, P6, which I should have talked about in the last video. This private company came with the president's share of a random company. By this phase in the game, that company is either started, purchased a train, and is closed, or you are still collecting $30 per operating round. This income is not insignificant. The second company to talk about now is the B&O. It also came with a share of the B&O, however has no special power and pays no income. If you were lucky enough to win it for the minimum bid of $105, this phase is where you see the value of your investment. Just at the face value, you may be thinking you lost between $10 and $35 based on the par price of the B&O, and that is true. However, during the green phase, you may sell this private company for up to $200. That means your investment will pay you the dividends from the share, and you are able to take $50 to $200 from one company and make the company's money your money. Track segments on the old tile must be represented in the same orientations on the new tile. Track connections between hex sides and cities must be preserved. For plain track upgrades, some part of the track of the new tile, which is not on the old tile, must constitute an extension of the route of the company, which means that this upgrade would be illegal for the B&O. The new track does not extend his run. There are 16 different green tiles, each an upgrade to a yellow hex. Of all the yellow tiles we placed, there are actually only 6 possible upgrades. You have plain track upgrades, city upgrades, DC upgrade, and of course the double-aught city upgrades. Let's take a look at upgrading DC. There are 2 possible orientations to the DC tile in yellow. It can port toward the northwest or to the south. and it all depends on what you want to block during the green phase. Because the track laying rules and upgrades require you to maintain the track that is already present, if you orientate it to the south, you will not be able to block the south in green. If you orientate it to the northwest, the same is true. The other two configurations allow blocking regardless of the position of the yellow tile. This, however, is only temporary, because the yellow DC tile with 2 exits upgrades to the green DC tile with a place for an additional token and 5 exits, which will upgrade to the brown tile with all 6 exits and up to 3 tokens. And finally to the best revenue city in the board, which would be $100, 4 tokens, and 6 exits. Let's look at the normal cities. In the yellow phase, normal cities or just straight cities. This allows for 2 possible upgrades, either a K or an X. The chicken foot is not available. 5 of the greens will be able to upgrade to a brown, and 1 brown city will be able to upgrade to a silver. There are 12 cities that can be upgraded, but 3 of these can only be upgraded with a K based on them being on the edge of the board. Allentown, Berlin, and of course, Lynchburg. And since each of these cities have 2 blank spots leading off board, none of the 3 will ever be able to be upgraded to brown. That leaves us the double O cities. Both Philadelphia and Baltimore are double O cities. Because Baltimore has a side to the Chesapeake, there is only 1 orientation for the 3 green upgrades. Philadelphia has a little bit more variety, but the cities still are not combined. Both of these cities are able to upgrade to brown, yielding 5 exits and the ability to hold 2 tokens, but only 1 of the 2 of them will be able to go to gray. In the green phase, the tokens are separated by separate routes. This is resolved in brown and gray phase. If you've ever been the victim of a tragic track lay, it's probably because you didn't know the roster. Hopefully this portion, upgrading the normal track, will aid you. You can see from the tile manifest that there are 2 types of upgrades. You have switches and you have coexisting track. On the switches, you can see that 2 tracks converge at the south end. So we use 3 of the 6 hex sides. This is going to become important because the maximum number of sides a brown hex will show is 4. So as soon as you lay a switch, you have locked in 3 of the 6 sides. We can see this in a demonstration of the progression from straight track to a switch to the brown track. With few exceptions, the maximum number of tracks that will converge on 1 hex sides is 2. There are exceptions though, like Chicago in 1846. Coexisting track is when 1 track crosses over or under another track. They are not connected. This track will use up all 4 sides of the available brown. So once you lay this crossbow, those are the 4 sides that will see track. In 18 Chesapeake, the number 9 straight track has 4 switches and 2 coexisting tracks. There are 5 potential switches for a gentle curve, and only 2 coexisting tracks. The number 7 tight curve has only 4 switches and absolutely no coexisting track. Finally, let's take a look at the best 3 and 4 train runs for each of the companies. The Pennsylvania Railroad started out with a 2 train run of $40. However, it can use the privates for some surprising benefits. The player that controls the PR&R also has control of the Columbia-Philadelphia Railroad. He can buy in the Columbia-Philadelphia Railroad for up to $80, get his 2 free track lays, and then use his operating round track lay to upgrade Allentown. This will connect him to Philadelphia and give him a 3-train run for $80. If for some reason he would prefer to be in Philadelphia, he can use the same trick. Again, getting 2 free track lays and then upgrading Philadelphia with the ability to place a token there. All in his first OR. If he is able to upgrade Harrisburg first, he can use a very similar trick with the Baltimore and Susquehanna Railroad. He can buy in the BNS, take his 2 free track lays, and then use his turn track lay to upgrade and token Baltimore. The PR&R's best 3-train run is for 110 using a combination of both techniques. It will take a couple of upgrades for the CNO to get its best run, which would be Norfolk to Washington, D.C. for 110. We will also talk about the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal teleport with the CNO. It can be used by any company. In this case, its best run would be $80, Pittsburgh to Berlin. As mentioned earlier, Norfolk and Western's home city of Lynchburg can only be upgraded with a K-Tau. With the proper upgrades, he could run 1 3-train for 110, or if he wins the race to DC, he could run 2 3-trains for 190. Pittsburgh and Lake Erie, with a token in Green Springs, will actually be able to run 1 3-train for $130 or 2 3-trains for $220. The Lehigh Valley Railroad is really at the mercy of the owner of the Delaware and Raritan Canal and the double ditch to its southeast. One possibility is using the number 2 to connect to Easton and New York. Unfortunately, the number 2 is the only double ditch tau that has a sharp curve on it. If he is able to upgrade Allentown, then any one of the 3 with a straight will still get him to New York. Like Lynchburg and Berlin, Allentown can only be upgraded with a K-Tau. The Columbia and Philadelphia Railroad will also allow Lehigh Valley to slip a token into Harrisburg. All the small towns around the CNA's home city kind of hurts its run. If it wins the race to Baltimore, then it would have a 3-train run for $80. Upgrading Philadelphia would give it a run for $70, and it could run a 3-train to New York for $100. If Strasburg wins the race to Baltimore, then he'll be able to run 2 3-trains, with or without a token in Baltimore. 1 3-train would get him $80, and a second 3-train would get him an additional $70. The best 3-train run for the Baltimore and Ohio would be DC to Ohio for $130. If for some reason the track west is not being built, he can also run for 110. Baltimore and Ohio gets a lot of 3-train runs. I hear the conductor. That means it's time to go. If you've enjoyed the video, leave me a like and a comment. Until next time, have fun training.